If you've been around the Yu-Gi-Oh community for even a little bit, then you've probably heard that the community is toxic. And I'm inclined to agree to that, at least a little bit. In my years of playing, there's been a lot of toxic players, and there's not really a whole lot to really write home about. It's the general detractors of pretty much any game you come across. But the ones I'm going to cover today are some pretty special examples here. If you're new to the channel, I've been playing ABCs since 2016, when the deck came out. Even when ABCs was no longer meta, and people started to turn away from the deck, I was still playing the deck. By 2019, I was pretty much the only person at my locals still on the deck. Everyone else had moved to the relevant decks of toss format. Simply because I had no interest in Orchest at the time. Salad was pretty much the only other option for me, and I could not afford Thunder Dragon at the time. But there's another player of ABCs that I knew, and this one person would constantly talk down to me, both as a player and as a person in general. And he had also moved on to other decks by 2019 during toss format. I remember one time we were all hanging out, and he said he wanted to play a bad deck. He looks at me, and he says, "Let me play with your ABCs." Keeping in mind, I am known in the community as the ABC guy, and that still holds true to today. But no, apparently my deck is bad, and I'm a bad player. Okay, sure. There was another time when I was playing with Blue Eyes, which is a bad deck, and he was playing with Altergeist. And during this time, it was before VFD got banned. I was aware of a Conquerry that he had in hand, and it's an Earth attribute. So I wanted to attack for pretty much game at that point, because if I knew, if I didn't, then he would just snowball into more Altergeist cards, and I just would lose. So, before I go into the battle phase, I go VFD, Call Earth. I do that so that he can't activate Conquerry's effect to summon itself and stop my attacks. He asks me why I called Earth, and I ask in reply, isn't Conquerry Earth? He replies to that, yes, but where is Conquerry? As if to imply I misplayed, as if I did something stupid. He gave me a look like he was annoyed with how stupid I was. But if you read VFD, it prevents cards in your opponent's possession from activating their effects of the shared attribute called. Just no matter what I did, I was always wrong, and always a bad player, and always stupid. And I was the target of his constant criticism for seemingly no reason. Such a great person to keep around, right? Don't engage with these type of people. Nothing good can really come of it. I have this person blocked, and I haven't seen him in a couple of years at this point. Now I'm gonna go to the other end of the spectrum. Toxic positivity. I knew someone who was friendly. Like, really friendly. Overly friendly. So much so, it was beginning to be a little too much for me to handle. He got hyped over everything, and Yu-Gi-Oh was no exception. And on one night, my brain just decided to not work that night, and I forgot about game one. He apparently 2-0'd me, and my brain just didn't. Okay, my bad. Let's rationally figure this out, because my brain decided to be stupid that day. Nope. He starts with, don't you remember how you did this? Come on, don't you remember? No, I don't remember. That's the problem. But it soon progressed to him getting up and going on and on about he pwned me, he owned me, and how he beat me, and just laying into me. Basically, he wanted me to acknowledge that he finally beat me, fair and square. Which I get. My brain was just shit that day for whatever reason. And yelling at me is not going to get us anywhere. He just keeps going on and on and on. I don't have a chance to respond to any of that, trying to mentally process what in the actual fuck is happening. My friend Noah jumps in and asks what's going on. My opponent explained the situation to him. And he's just like, oh, now he's not responding. He's not saying anything. And then Noah told him, well, you're not really giving him a chance to really say anything. But before I could say anything, he just kept going. It got to the point where my friend Sean had to come in and tell him to stop. That was harassment, by the way. If that ever happens to you, walk away from the situation and tell a judge and get them disqualified. I was going to do just that, but it had escalated to the point where I did not feel safe doing that. Like, I wasn't sure if it was going to follow me. I didn't want it to result in a physical altercation. And if you think a physical altercation is inevitable, call for someone. Tell them to get a judge. And I feel like the toxicity only gets worse when you look at online simulations. The one thing that Konami got right with Master Duel was not including a chat feature. Because holy shit, it is a hellscape. An example is, you're in game 3 and you break game 1 and you scoop because you know you're not getting around the board your opponent is making, and then you go first. Game 2, your opponent scoops because they didn't get around what you're making, and now it's game 3. And this game 3 is against King Calamity Centurion Turbo. And in game 3, your opponent gloats because they're gonna win. They go on about how your deck is toxic and requires no skill to play, and you're just a bad player. But their deck, which is Centurion King Calamity Turbo, that it requires a lot of skill to play, and they're such a skilled player. Like, what do I have to prove to you? Do I care? No. I don't give a fuck. You can be the most skilled player in Yu-Gi-Oh! I don't give a shit. They just want to put you down just to build themselves up, in which that's not okay. It doesn't really matter what deck you play to these people. You're just going to be the toxic player no matter what. But they're such a skilled player. The correct move to do with these people is just let them have the win and then go about your day knowing you're never going to interact with them again. What I do, which I think is funnier, which might be perpetuating the problem a little bit, and I don't recommend you do, is minimize the window and let them have their tantrum. And while this Centurion player was having their little tantrum, they gave me this comment, implying that they are going to upload this to YouTube. Sorry, but I kind of beat you to it. So, hi YouTube. So far, I've talked about people who are at least semi-competent at the game, but I've seen some toxicity from newer players. For example, this guy I knew had only been playing in tournaments for about a year at this point. Me and him fought in a tournament, and in this tournament, he summons Kashtira Fenrir, while I have ABC Dragon Buster and IP Masquerena on board. He goes into battle phase, and I say at start of battle phase, ABC Dragon Buster targets Fenrir to banish. He goes Chain Fenrir. If you read Fenrir, it is not a quick effect. Fenrir activates at the resolution of your opponent's card effect. With ABC targeting Fenrir, he would not have the opportunity to use Fenrir. So we had to call judge, and the judge said that Fenrir couldn't activate at this time, and so Fenrir was banished, and he passed his turn. I guess he must have Googled something after our match, because he storms by me and says to me, that was a bad judge call, leaves the store, and slams the door behind him. 4 months later, we have not seen or heard anything from him until he decides to come back into the same store, and the first thing he says to me is, that was a bad judge call with that ABC Dragon Buster. It's been 4 months since the judge call. I am trying to remember what in the actual fuck he's talking about. He tells me that he's been to all these judge forums and didn't even explain the situation correctly. He said that he attacked with Fenrir, which he didn't. I said at the start of battle phase. So he never had the opportunity to attack anyways. And he starts telling me that if we were at a regional, this would go down differently. I tell him, well, if we were at a regional, we would have a certified judge there. Then he says to me, yeah, I am a judge now. Yeah, he tells me that he took the judge test and passed, and now he's in the judge program. He starts going on about how he's gonna judge for the store and how we should just go to him for all judge questions and rulings. And the person who took our judge call 4 months ago was a cheater. This was a blatant attempt at gaslighting and manipulation, and I wasn't buying it. Anyways, he storms out of the store yet again. Haven't seen him in quite some time, which is probably for the better. And I tell the store owner what had happened, and he's not welcomed into the store anymore. So I don't know if you guys can hear the really annoying squeaking sound in the background. I'm sorry, there's nothing I can do about it. Anyways, so the icing on the cake here is that not only did he have delusions of grandeur, he had friends who also came to that same store who had similar issues. Like his friend, tried pendulum summoning to zones that a Link monster didn't point to. And we called him out on that, saying, hey, you can't do that. And he Googled up the incorrect ruling. He was looking at Master Rule 3. He went through an entire page of Google to reach the Master Rule 3 ruling and said that was a bad judge call. But you cannot make this shit up. And the same fate happened with him. We haven't seen him for quite some time now. Anyways, being paired against a toxic player is inevitable. If you have issues with your opponent, call a judge. If your opponent is harassing you, tell a judge or the venue and get them banned from the store, or at least disqualified. If you see that person outside of the venue or the event or anywhere, don't engage. If they try to engage with you, walk away. Don't bother that. That ain't worth your time. Thank you all so much for watching. If you are comfortable sharing any experiences you have had with a toxic player, let me know down below. My name is Vincent, and I am the Race Duelist. Goodbye.